It is 21st of November 2014. Thanks for joining us on Axiom Curb Radio tonight. This show is going to be full, cram-packed of information that you probably don't get to hear, and you definitely don't get to hear on the mainstream media, that's for certain. Tonight I'm joined with a few guests, one of them being our usual Andy, Bok, and a few others. We've got Myke from the Grassroots joining us shortly. So, before we meet Myke, let's go and speak to Andy. I did know I was having some voice sort of gurgle problem. Is that now cleared up, Andy? Can you tell me if that's now solved, or are we still ongoing with that problem?
Yeah, you're quite, as they say in the exoplanets, very spherical. You're not like wobbling like in orbit like makey, if that makes any sense.
So
that's an elongated egg-shaped exoplanet that wobbles all the time because it's not spherical.
Sort of, Andy.
It's called makey. Go check it out.
Right, now I'm back on here. We can start inviting the guests on. So I don't know what I've missed. What you've been talking about? Fill me in.
Well, we're just entertaining a thought about.
As we do.
Yeah, what do they want from us? What are we giving them? What is it that So I looked in a little bit. I was saying about very briefly. We do actually, every human, looking at basic physics and the human side, the physical side, we do emit a low frequency, well not low, but compared to the light, spectrum of light and the rest, X-rays and gamma rays, we do actually emit an infrared radiation energy back out into space. Each and every organic thing, or well, it's actually most solids, let's put it that way, as we know of them as solids. Yeah. Right, it emits ultraviolet, an infrared electromagnetic, if you like, but you call it radiation, back out. So we were just entertaining the thought, perhaps we're given whatever they want for them anyway, which is existing in the physical realm as the rest of the other bits and pieces that's on the Earth, and radiating back into space what space or the universe needs. How about that? Which is infrared, by the way, radiation.
Yeah.
We're infrared radiators of energy.
How would you put it, Buck? How would you describe it?
Yeah, I don't really know too much of the physics part of things, but I think that's somewhere about the same thing that Bill talks about with the photon.
Yeah, did you watch other Bill's upload last night?
Yeah, his what?
Yeah, a good one, that.
Uranus.
Yeah. Yeah, we sat all about Saturn in that, yeah?
I'm sorry, I'm typing actually. You just twerked another thought there by mentioning something, PJ. Oh, well, what frequency of photon are we? Now there's a thought. Now, a photon can be all different frequencies, or if you pick a particular photon, it could be infrared, or it could be ultraviolet. Now, the difference between the infrared and the ultraviolet, the either ends of the light scale that we know, that we see as light, are two different frequencies. the infrared being the lower, to the...
Yeah, there was a Japanese guy who took pictures of people and he captured their energy aura field on like on digital.
Mm. Did he do it with infrared photography?
I think he did. I think he did, yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
No,
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
I just don't. I remember Bill talked about him, and he was a Japanese guy.
I'm not sure, Andy, but I think he did use infrared stuff. Yeah.
Well, it's the only way to see the infrared radiation coming from a human being is infrared camera, isn't it? That's what they use. The police use it at night, and there you are. They can see you, but they're not seeing you. All they're seeing is a skin depth radiation of heat, which is the infrared radiation you're emitting, but it's only skin deep.
Yeah.
Below the skin, you won't see it. See what I'm saying?
Mm.
Interesting, isn't it? In a way. Like I say, I don't know where I'm going with this. It's just, it's putting a suggestion out there that would lead to another, which would lead to another, which would lead to another. I mean, I ain't no scientist, obviously. I just know a little bit about electromagnetic waves and frequencies and wavelengths because of my electronic interest in communication, which was the old technology, which was radio frequencies.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that, Andy, to be honest with you.
You're not too sure about which, PJ?
That's not my field. Well, infrared stuff. It's not.
Well, just take from the frequency. Everything's vibrate. You know about the vibration, yeah. Everything's oscillating, so it's given off it oscillates at a frequency. You know your mains, right? Your 240. I think in Canada it's probably 120, the same as America, isn't it, Bob? What's the voltage from the mains? No? Well, it's 240 here, yeah. 240 is 240 volts at the pin. When you put your kettle in, the voltage... Are you with me, PJ?
Oh, yeah, I know that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you know that it's an alternating current? That means it goes positive, negative, which gives you the sine wave, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. It does that at 50 hertz. 1 hertz is 1 second of time. So it goes negative, positive, and negative again, right? 50 times a second. That's the frequency of the mains that everybody uses as their household electricity in their house, yeah? Yeah? Have I lost you?
No, I'm still here.
Right. That's the frequency of mains AC, alternating current, electricity that comes out your plug to do whatever you're doing in your house and your flat. Right. So it has an alternating current at a frequency, which gives the sine wave. If you looked at the sine wave, right, it means it will be turning negative, positive, positive, negative 50 times a second. That's sine wave. If you could see it on an oscilloscope, that's what you would see.
Yeah.
So, right, but because it's only 50 hertz, you need an oscilloscope to see it. You can't see mains flowing through the air. You can't see the electricity that you come from your mains unless you put it into something like a light bulb and run it through a piece of wire, which is a filament that gets hot and glows, and that's your light bulb, yeah?
Yeah.
I stop me if oh, Bob's gone.
No, he's still here. He's still listening in.
Well, anyway, that's the basics of the basics, right? But there comes a point where that oscillation starts to go in kilohertz. That's 1,000 times a second. 1 kilohertz is 1,000 oscillations. 1 megahertz is 1 million oscillations a second. Then you start to get in gigahertz, which is 100,000 million hertz a second, times a second. You start to get in up into microwaves, all of a sudden, you're talking of millions and millions of oscillations a second. It's moving so fast, the oscillation. Right? And what happens is, the oscillations get so high, right, it starts to get into the visible spectrum of the human eye and the rest of your sensory systems connected to the eye, the brain, you know, etc., etc. And all of a sudden we can start to see these frequencies because they're oscillating so fast. But there comes a point where it extends beyond that, where the human eye can't actually see the increasingly faster oscillations. And I'm trying to put it in a layman's terms. And then we need special equipment like X-rays and that to see the even faster ones, because it's gone beyond the human's optical view of detection.
Yeah.
But a photon is between the beginning of the light we can see, from the first light, which is a very dark red, to the highest light that we can see, which is ultraviolet. So the photon, which is everything light, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is what Bill Donahue says, it's light, yeah? So it can only be between there and there as we see it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the photon, but there's a difference between when we first start to detect it as a photon to the end of it where we stop detecting it as a photon. But there's a big difference in that range of frequencies, which gives us the different colours. Or we project our equipment to give it them colours. Okay, this is all just straightforward man science. It's nothing complicated, right? It's only called a photon because we can see it as light. Of course,
Right.
Of course, it could be a photon beyond our physical light, but we don't call it a photon because we can't see it.
Yeah. So I mean, it only goes as far as being able to describe it.
Yes, absolutely. But it can be the same photon. Or let's say the photon is energy. It's just fast, you know, oscillating waves, electromagnetic waves. Everything is, yeah.
Yeah.
And Bill Donahue puts it smack on. But the thing is, once it goes beyond our detection of what we deem as a photon, it doesn't necessarily change, only in frequency, and you know, we have to call it something else until we develop a higher level of consciousness where we can detect it, I guess. But it's still the same thing. It's energy. It's all energy. Everything is energy. Everything. It's fast or slower, oscillating sin waves, electromagnetic waves. So you can only deal as humans as the photon between those frequencies of oscillation, because we can't detect it and we don't call it a photon. Off that, it could be called, I don't know, a darton, but it's not been invented. I don't know. You see what I mean? But it doesn't stop.
No.
It doesn't stop. Where does it stop? Well, it never stops because it's an infinite. It gets to the point where we can't detect it, so we go, oh, that's the end, that's the beginning, that's the end. It's a bit like the life cycle. There's the beginning, there's the end of physical. So I mean, I get all of what Donahue and that says. I can, you know, I'm a little bit behind you guys in a lot of other things he speaks about, but yeah, that's basically it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's spot on. Mm.
But these photons, you might come back a different energy photon. You may be an ultraviolet photon, well, you may be an infrared photon at the moment, which is what we can all see if we put the infrared camera on us to be able to detect the infrared. But when you come back next time, you might be higher up in the frequency and you're no longer detected as infrared. You may be detected as something else, or something else, or something else, or something else. So, you know, this is it's infrared is the very beginning of just not being able to see it, and that's why you need this equipment to see it with the human eye. But as you go further up, you go, it's red now. I can start to see it. I can start to see it. So it's interesting to. I mean, I've not really looked at it too much, but listening to Donia and that, I've been starting to sort of get some heavy thinking and try and get my back. I wished I knew this stuff when I was a lot younger, because I kind of, you had to take physics with the basics of electronics, but not physics, it's just electron, that's all. Just, which is what it all is all about, really, you know. But it was just, you know, nucleus and the rest, you know, protons and neutrons, they called them. So, I can expand now. I can expand a bit more, but I have to refresh my brain. It would have been easier. I could have, if I was still young and my brain was much more alert, and I could take things in quicker. As you get older, unfortunately, well, I don't know if that's the case. I feel that I can't. It takes a lot more for me to I have to soak it overnight and then come back the next day and go, I kind of get that now. Whereas when I was younger, it sort of was almost instant. But I didn't have all the crap, the doctrine so much, PJ, to clutter it all up. You know, I don't know. But, anyway, where am I going with this? How far have I got? I don't know. I've digressed a bit, haven't I? I have a little bit.
Transformed the photon.
Yeah, is it the transformation of the photon? Is it each time a higher part of the frequency, a higher part, until eventually, maybe, the divinity comes around, and you're no longer.
Each time it's being used, it's like all this stuff that we use electricity or a current for. You know, it's all wasted energy, isn't it?
Oh, definitely,
well,
totally.
With photon, none of it's wasted, but the key is it has to be used in order to, you know, like multiply in whatever form, you know, whichever way it does it.
Oh yeah, Myke. Who's that? Sorry, we've got somebody here.
I'm not sure.
Myke got some response to show video.
We've got Mark, I think.
Better?
Hey, question.
What's up, brothers?
Hello, Myke.
Finally made it.
How are you guys doing tonight? Can you hear me clear?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Hey, question. Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, wow. You guys. Awesome. All three brothers, man. How you guys doing?
Pretty good.
All right, Myke.
How's it going there, Andy?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. Fine, not too bad. We're just entertaining our thought, really. But we don't know where we're going with it. But hey, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Right up. What are you guys discussing on right now?
The frequency of light and photons.
Oh, interesting. I've been talking about that a little bit in certain terms, trying to understand if we could consider. I mean, can light be considered matter?
Well, it's an interesting thought. Well, you have to understand. Well, what is matter? Is it a solid, or is it just energy?
Well, the simplest definition of matter for me is anything that has mass and takes up space. But light take up space.
Well, you know that mass is not, what people think it is. I don't think, they understand that mass is 99.9% empty space, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. That's kind of the paradox, and that's kind of in my the nuance of quantum physics is understandings that, in fact, we think that the third dimension, the dimensional realm, is more our reality, but that is really just the smallest fraction of our reality. And as you said, the rest of it is space. You can get down to the space between the atoms,
Yeah, it's all almost, the vacuum, isn't it? If you like.
Yes, definitely. I have watched a couple of Nassim Harriman's videos lately.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Well, it's kind of hard to get to people to sort of, say, well, there you are sat there, but 99% of you is nothing. It's I can't take it in, but you have to understand the basics of the simple, the simple atom to understand that. But once you show them that, what it is, that it's just pure energy, they kind of start to get it. But it's a bit of a hurdle for somebody who's not anything to do with physics or I mean, mine's very, very, very basic, Myke. Like I was saying to the boys, I had to take a little tiny bit of physics when I was young because I got into electronics, analog electronics, not digital. This is the old days. So you had to entertain that side of it, but it was very basic, yeah.
Right, yeah. But my knowledge is basic on it too, but I tend to think that because we come from it, it's so hard to grasp. It's kind of profound to realize, rather. Yeah, well,
that's what we're for, isn't it? To figure it out or try to figure it out.
It's like I heard Alan Watts once describe it as the universe is a big show we're putting on, just like a fireworks is a celebration of a show of existence, and it's kind of like this. He used it as a poetic way to explain it. One way I found was a great way to describe to people what we're just talking about is to ask them the question to describe the room they're in. And when it goes in to describe the room, they're going to tell you, there's a TV, my fireplace, my couch, I'm in the room, the ceiling, the wall. They will never describe the space that houses the entire room itself.
It's interesting, isn't it?
It really is, and it makes you wonder, how much is unseen that is part of what we are. And from the very basic level of language all the way up to the very complex level of just communicating in general. So interesting how really all we're doing is communicating and interacting, but for some reason we tend to separate things and look at them in small concepts. And I think in physics they call it, it's referred to in certain ways as quantum entanglement. And in terms of, it's hard for us to differentiate our own subjectivity from what we're seeing,
It's heavy stuff for a lot of people. It's heavy. It's heavy for the average Joe who's got the 9-to-5 job, or who's lucky to have the 9-to-5 job. It's a little bit out there for them. And
well, definitely for the carnal mind it is, for sure.
Listen, I confuse myself. I do sometimes. I'm thinking, wow, where am I going with this? But I tend to like to just let float ideas and things, and that way it's better. You got to get out. People want to stay inside the box with everything, and you're never going to explore anything, are you? If you stay inside the box, it's so yeah. You have to stretch the mind, get outside the box, and what if questions, It's all about that, isn't it? Anyway, I don't want to hog it. What do you think, Bog?
Hey, I've just been chilling, listening. Well, I think they say that matter is created from light. Was that what you guys have heard?
Yeah, I've heard that theory, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that in certain lights, in terms of, Big Bang Theory and the old, just compression of light over time, and eventually gets so energetic that it just, explodes or something?
Yeah.
I have a wonderful, have you guys heard of shots of awe before?
Wait, yeah, sorry, Myke, to what?
Oh, sorry about that. Have you guys heard of Shots of Awe before, the YouTube channel?
Shots of orb?
Yeah, Shots of Awe.
Oh, of awe. No, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that guy's wonderful. I had just watching a video today that gave me like a profound this is a profound epiphany, and he was talking about actualizing the human imagination. And essentially what he was getting into is some of the things we're talking about is what we're really doing is turning our insides out. Whenever we communicate, whenever we express, whenever we dive into physics and things like this, what we're doing is expressing ourselves from the inside out. And it's almost this whole paradox that exists throughout the entire universe. And even when you look into terms of religion, when you think that whether A, we created these gods, or B, they created us, C, we are becoming them. Essentially through our exploration through technology and, our upgrading biology and just manipulating the noosphere through information and knowledge and understanding and through the perceptions itself. And it's so crazy. This is why I think about quantum entanglement when it comes to physics so much, because it's so weird to think that, like, the language that we have, we're studying the language itself with that language, and it just gets really, really mixed up,
Yeah, that is one of the big barriers.
I mean, do you guys have, would you mind listening to this 3-minute clip and probably, or perhaps sparking something off of it? I don't know if you guys allow that, or...
Yeah, we don't have a script here, so we just pretty much go with the flow.
Okay, it's perfectly relative, it's really fluent, and it should be good to understand. So let me just make sure I keep this dog out of the room real quick.
Yeah, I'm getting a bit of feedback coming through your microphone question when I'm talking.
Alright, what was that?
I was just saying I'm getting a tiny bit of echo coming back through your mic. It's not too bad now. Seems to have stopped.
Yeah, because I'm on laptop, I'm not using headphones. I don't have headphones right now.
Alright.
I'll try to tilt my mic away. Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, here we go. This is called Actualizing the Human Imagination, and it's off of the YouTube channel Shots of Awe.
This episode of Shots of Awe is brought to you by Norton.
Oops, sorry for that advertisement.
One of my favorite lines by Terence McKenna to sum up the human man-machine story is that human beings, the goal of humanity is to effectively turn ourselves inside out, to actualize the human imagination, to literalize the human mind with our creativity, to turn our tools, these technological scaffoldings, to turn them into extensions of mind, to expand the boundaries of mind. Kevin Kelly, co-founder of Wired, calls technology the seventh kingdom of life, the technium, subject to the same evolutionary forces. Human beings take in matter of low organization. We put them through the filters of the human mind, and we extrude space shuttles and wireless communication networks and smartphones. The Industrial Revolution, we transcended the limitations of our muscles. With the digital revolution, we transcended the limitations of our minds. With the biotechnology revolution, we will transcend the limitations of biology by turning the software of life into something that is programmable. We will upgrade biology. With the nanotech revolution, we will transcend the limits of matter by patterning atoms the same way we pattern bits of information in digital space. The whole physical universe will become like the Pixar universe, as manipulatable and as fluid as the digital cosmos is. The physical cosmos will be programmable at that point, patterning atoms like this. So consider these implications. Consider then the context in which this places mind, in which this places life. You know, as Bucky Fuller used to say, life is an anti-tropic phenomenon. Life moves away from entropy towards greater self-organization, greater patterns, upwellings of patterns and structure. This is life. This is mind. And as David Deutsch said in his book, The Beginning of Infinity, if you look already at the physical topography of a city like Manhattan, that's a topography in which the forces of economics, culture, and intent have trumped geology, right? Like literally the forces of mind create more physical topographical change than the forces of geology. And it's trumped matter. And as Ray Kurzweil in his magnificent book, The Singularity is Near, it turns out, my friends, that we are central. After all, we're not just a pale blue dot. Our ability to create virtual models in our heads, combined with our modest-looking thumbs, was sufficient to usher in a secondary force of evolution called technology. It will continue until the entire universe is at our fingertips. Having invented the gods, we can turn into them. That is the human story. That is turning ourselves inside out. That is actualizing the human imagination. What is within becomes without.
Chilling. I just like I get goosebumps just thinking about it. And we were just discussing that in terms of, you know, how we even view these things that we're talking about, how we shape them. What do you guys think?
Yeah. He's a very excitable man. The only thing I would say, well, how I would look at it is that, I still think that what we're doing, I don't know what it is. It's nothing to do with religion or tie into the old religious doctrine or anything like that. You know, I think it's all been done before, but not by us, but perhaps other areas of the universe, by other, I don't know, call them whatever you like, other beings. People say extraterrestrials, whatever. And we're just following on as inhabitants of this pale blue dot, as Carl Sagan put it. So I think we're just transcending to that. But there are other entities or whatever that have gone this path before. We're not the only ones, if you see what I'm saying. I don't know. That's my thoughts on that. But it was a nice piece, Myke. Yeah, very thought-invoking. It's all gone quiet.
Yeah, I was thinking, you know, it depends how you're looking at it. You know, if you're looking at it through more of a conscious photon sort of way. Interesting when you were talking about, you know, like all the geology stuff, and you know how we can have an impact on that, you know, in a physical way. But it talks about how all that were created from, you know, the conscious way, which is sort of what you were talking about, and we've all been through this before, and you know. But does it not make you feel jealous to, you know, think or to suspect that there's another another form of consciousness out there that is, you know, they've got it right. Like, why are we put on this blue little pearl to do what we're doing?
Well, I that was very quickly. But no, I don't feel jealous at all. Not at all.
Yeah, it goes back to that place where. Hold on, I've got a lot of echoes here. It goes back to when they were saying, you know, you can live in the slums and look out to the, you know, to the luxury, or you can live in the luxury and look out to the slums. It's that sort of thing, isn't it?
It kind of just, you said that, it struck something in my mind. It struck something in my mind when you said, don't feel kind of jealous. And I thought about the email I'd gotten years and years ago one time. It was some like religious email. And somebody was interviewing Jesus, and they asked him, you know, what's one thing that surprises you about human beings the most? And his answer was that when they're younger, they long to be older. But when they're older, they long to be younger. And this is when you're speaking of the jealousy of, and I relate to what you're trying to imply, because I kind of feel that way. As a society and a culture, those who will pay attention to the connections and the universal connections that we have as a culture, we do wish to see that. We know that there are other beings out there. We know with our hearts and just the understanding of the universe, and we think, you know, what does it take to get to that place? That place of maturity. Meaning, like, you know, you can't just give a child a gun and be like, yeah, guns exist, it's okay. Here, 5-year-old, take a gun. But when they become old enough to mature to use the gun, when they can make decisions based on, you know, other people's bodies and extensions of themselves, et cetera, and knowing the full ramifications of what they're going to do, then they might be ready for such technology. And I kind of look at the same way with humanity. If there are other beings who have went through this path themselves and reached, let's just go ahead and out here and be theoretical and say reach the galactic family. And, you know, once you get to that point, you're harnessing powerful energies, you know, from the universe, and you're traveling and being able to essentially just manipulate existence, I mean, through your own realization that you're part of it. I think you would have to have a certain maturity to be able to see that as a safe tool for people to use. I don't know. Yeah.
I think adding to what you're talking about, it's like, when we're living as life, you know, we're living to try and, you know, build some things, but all these things become is memories. And when you get older, that's the only thing you've got, you know, it's your past. That's the only thing that you look forward to is your past, don't you? When you get older than that, the only things you seem to talk about are the things that, you know, that you've lived, your experiences. And in a way, if you look at it as in a universal sort of way, that's you know, everything in the universe is like a memory sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like your memories, like, it's hard for me to explain it to you, but when we're talking about consciousness making physical things and stuff like that of what we've got in the universe, well, that could be, the things in the universe could be just the memories, do you know what I mean? The leftovers.
I do know what you mean, and I kind of touched on that a little bit earlier, thinking like, you know, we're like an interpretation of the universe. You know, in terms of the kind of human beings, we're created by plants to propagate them. Essentially, if you look at it that way, revolution. It's really interesting, you know, and that's what, I don't know, to me, like, if you know, the religious stuff alludes to me that there are more than one, and it all alludes to me that they reside somewhere, or they're waiting for us to be mature enough, come join. And that's like how I look at it. Otherwise, I'm looking at it in terms of you need to die to get here. And I don't really, you know.
Oh, yeah. If it's never ending and it's non-stopping, then there's got to be some result.
Right. It's a big paradox, you know. Like first law of thermodynamics, energy can never be destroyed, transformed. But it's so interesting. I don't know. Like how interesting is it that all of us here came from a small gooey substance that came out of a penis?
Yeah. Have you got a thought on it, Bob?
What's that, Eddie?
You're not being paying attention.
Oh, you're talking about the oils?
No, I don't know. Well, Myke just said.
Well, those are the same oils that apparently travel up your spine to the pineal gland.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was going to say, touching on something earlier, we're not the only blue planet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's something to keep in mind. Like, they often talk about it as if, we're the only. And who's to say there's not life on other planets? Like, I've been following these other guys, Hoagland and these John Lear guys are saying, like, there's life on all the planets. They all have an atmosphere. They're all apparently breathable. You never know.
I thought that were interesting, that video you shared with me about, I think it was with David Wolf, when he was talking about blue rainbow.
Oh, yeah, the colours.
The colour blue, yeah. That the blue's not actually colour blue. Just thought I'd mention
those are the special pigments in nature. Show up in the like your blueberries and the sea algae he was talking about.
Is that something to do with the moon? The moonbow?
That creates that pigment? I'm not sure about that.
No, I was struggling to listen to that video you put on the other day. You were through Zello, and I'm sure I heard him talk about. He goes, "Have you ever seen the rainbow? Have you ever seen the rainbow in the darkness with the moon?" And I've never seen that.
Apparently, it's a grey one.
It's a grey one, right?
It's a grey rainbow.
It's usually circular around the moon, and I've looked it up before on Wikipedia because I had a couple of, there's two different kinds. There's the one that's a rainbow, and it's very small in terms of it's like pretty much right around the moon. And it's faint, and you have to see it in good light. And then there's a second kind of halo that comes around the moon, and this one, I don't know exactly how that's really big. It almost looks like clouds are not even around the moon in a perfect full circle. And this has to do with something with reflection of light, the atmosphere, and such things like that. But I know what you're talking about in regards to the moon rainbow. There's another similar weird lighting effect that happens with one of our stars, or one of the stars out there, and it appears to be blinking like blue and red and green sometimes. You guys ever caught that?
Yeah, I've heard of that too.
Yeah, from where I'm at, you usually see it around the horizon level, a little bit above it, around and I always see it. It's kind of like, check out that star, and people are like, that's an airplane. And like every time I say that, everybody says it's an airplane. It's not. It's just an atmospheric effect on Sirius, I believe it is.
It's the Doppler effect. Don't forget, because of the bend in light. But when you look outside the atmosphere, you're going to get like the Doppler effect, yeah.
Yep.
So that could have a bearing on the flashing of a star, or the twinkling of a star, or anything like that. Obviously, if you could get outside of our atmosphere, it'd be a different thing.
Right. Definitely.
So you've got the Doppler effect and all that stuff going on.
Is that what causes the sunset and the sunrise at the same time? The double sun.
Well, it depends on what you mean. What you mean anywhere on the Earth, or what do you mean? Sorry.
No, it's that phenomenon where when you've got your sunset and then on over the side you've got.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, it's the Doppler effect. Yeah, it's everything's time and space. Everything's bent, isn't it? You're not looking at, when you look at, if you is to measure time or light travelling or frequency, anything going through space or whatever, it's not perfectly straight. It's curved, isn't it?
Yeah.
But anyway, just as we perceive with what we've got, our eyes and our head, the spectrum of light is 400 to 700 nanometers. that's in frequency. That's just, that's what it is. And but everything either side of that, below that or above it, infinitely, it's still the same. It's still energy. It's still electromagnetic sin waves, if you like, moving at ever increasing or less increasing oscillations. And that's all that photon is. It's a ball of energy, electromagnetic energy, that we perceive in the light zone, which is that area. But either side of that, it's still energy, but it's a different frequency. So a lot of people don't take that into consideration. That just because we can't see it, it doesn't mean to say it's still not energy. It's like, oh well, we can't see it, and that's the confinement.
Well, hey, Andy, have you ever looked at a digital clock with a pair of headphones on, listening to music?
No, I'll have to try. Go on.
And the numbers start bouncing up and down.
Oh, well, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
But if you look at a normal clock, the old-fashioned clock, it doesn't happen. It only happens on a digital.
Yeah.
It's because it's emitting like a light.
Yes, of course. Not either LEDs.
I mean, just by listening to something and having headphones on, can cause some things to happen. So.
Well, try this one, Bob. Try the one that's got the bright light on it. Is a light-emitting diode. It's LED. Yeah. The other thing that you look on digital now is is LCD, which is not quite the same. I wonder if you look at one that hasn't got the light, just the ordinary, black digit, like on a hand calculator, digital calculator, whatever. I wonder if it does the same with that. Just a thought.
Yeah.
I bet it doesn't.
Same here. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if we've lost Myke. We've still got you there, Myke. I've got a red bar on my Skype here.
Oh. Yeah, me too. Here comes
maybe his net dropped out.
Oh, can you guys hear me?
Oh, he's back.
He's back.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, guys. I gotta step aside for a couple minutes, if that's okay.
Sure, no worries. Come back in.
Okay, just about 5 minutes at the most. Gonna increase my flower power.
That's a good idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah, just working on my second cup of tea here.
It's good though if you've got a little bit of background on just the basic things of frequency and time and that sort of thing, and what it is, because it helps you understand it a bit easier. The basics of what it's about, really. I mean, it's very, very logical to me because of the background, and easy to sort of understand where some of these theories are going, because they tend to still stick to the basics. And then, what does quantum mean? What does it mean, PJ? What does it mean? This is basically, where everything's going, isn't it?
Seems to be that way, doesn't it?
Well, instead of the macro, it's the micro, isn't it? Everything was always the world we had lived into up until, after, I guess, before the theory of relativity and Einstein and the rest of it. It was all the macro side of everything, the bigger picture, the big bang, the big this, the big hamburger. You know what I mean? Everything was focused solely on bigger is better. Well, now it's being focused totally now as we go on the other way, which is, you know, I mean, even Stephen Hawkins is that way now, where he never used to be. I think he entertained the thought, but most of it he was talking about was from the Big Bang. You know, the big. I mean, I watched a video the other night on YouTube, and it made me laugh because they had several theories of what's happening to the universe and what's likely to happen to the universe. And they talked about the big crunch, the big, what was the other thing? Everything, the universe is going to come to an end, apparently. This was their, you know, the theory of conventional science, even today, they can't quite seem to grab the infinity side of things, you know?
I don't think they qualified to state that, you know, opinion, to be honest with you, Andy.
Well, they are still stuck in that world, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, but then again, everything is geared towards that nothing has regeneration in it.
Well, that's right. You know, eventually it will either keep expanding at a fast and faster way, and then it'll collapse in on itself, and it'll be the big crunch and the big. There were several free. Like every time, will it be the big this and
but
the big that?
What difference does it make if we came from nothing? Then we wouldn't know anything. I mean, just to say, if you know, if Earth just got destroyed and we all died, say in whatever 1,000 millions of years or whatever it is it takes for us to come back again, we wouldn't know, would we?
No.
So it makes no difference what happens. It's not going to get rid of us. It might get rid of us for a few thousand millions of years or whatever, but we'll still end up coming back.
Well, this is the, you know, this black hole theory of everything, you know, of where everything gets sucked into this massive black hole, which is the gravity is so powerful that light itself cannot escape. And everything, you know, it envelops upon itself. It's always the end, dun dun dun. You know? And I find it quite funny. And there's, you know, and I think, well, I think it's because they can't cope with the theory of infinity. They can't handle it. They can't cope. They can't cope with it. What do you think, Bob?
I don't think they want you to think that way.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what I think too.
Mm.
But they ain't going to have no choice, are they? I'm not going to give them the choice, are you?
No, well, we're talking about it now, so they've not got my respect, if that's the case.
It's a little bit, what's the word for it? I'm stumped for words tonight, Book. Oh, me vapor's got blocked up. Oh, that's not good, is it, Book?
Uh-oh.
No, that's not good at all. I'm going to have a mouthful of... Have you tried a bit of glycerine, Book?
Not lately.
No, not nitroglycerine.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Now that should be it. did I get to? Where did I get to, PJ? You see, I can't remember where I am now. What was my point of bringing this up in the first place? Where was I going? Where was I going, PJ? Come on, you've got a younger head than me.
I got roped into it halfway through. You started talking about this with Bob, didn't you, to begin with?
Oh yes, physically. Alright, let's deal with the bloody physical side of it. What the hell, does it matter? You have to start somewhere, I guess. Oh, it was,
I don't know.
Infrared radiation, wasn't it?
Looking at things, Andy, like where we're saying like everything's just going to end up, you know, destroying itself, and maybe that's why we're put into these bodies, into these vessels, to carry that out. Maybe that's the purpose. Just entertain that thought. Maybe the only way to prolong, you know, the life of the universe is for consciousness or a photon to enter into a vessel, and for us just to cause as much mayhem and destruction as possible. You know, because they do say most life comes from death.
Yeah, of course.
So maybe the only reason that we're actually alive as a physical body is to carry out something that the universe can't do on its own. Maybe our existence is the only thing that's sustaining the universe in a weird sort of way.
No, I don't think it's weird. I think it's a good concept.
Well, in a weird way, in a weird way,
there must be a connection.
Well, there's definitely a connection, because that's the way it is. That's what, you know, that's what we've got today, haven't we? We've got
even though, you know, I do question a few of them, like not only our case, but like the existence of a mosquito. Well, what is its purpose?
Has to piss people off, I think, apart from that.
You know, you've got zillions of them all over the planet, in a million different species, and you wonder, like, well, what is their purpose? You know, it's like, okay, if mosquitoes were to die from from existence, like, what else would suffer because of it? You know, that's another way of posing the same question. Like, well, what is its purpose? It's a head scratcher.
Perhaps they're just infrared transmitters like us doing what, and if that is doing something that the universe can't do on its own, like PJ's saying, you know, the universe needs.
Well, there is the old thinking of the mystic, where if, let's say, like some bee stung you, and you go like, wow, like you haven't been stung in, like, you know, over 30 years. All of a sudden you get stung by a bee, you know, it's a bit irritating and everything, and you think about it and you go like, okay, did that happen by accident? There might have been a purpose for that. Maybe that's nature's way of giving you a vaccination of sorts.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
well, that's how we enable antibodies for disease, is by getting the disease when you're a younger age, so that you're more resilient to fight it, and the body can make its antibodies for later on in life when you get it again.
Well, that goes back to, you know, yeah, same sort of thing. But, you know, we're being educated to, you know, be careful and be cautious about what we're doing. Maybe that's a negative thing. I mean, maybe we're meant to do these things, you know. So for us to be put through these education things through schooling, and, you know, to be taught and trained to do things in a certain way to stop us from, or to prevent us from having these incidents occurring, then maybe that's not such a good thing. Maybe that's why they want us to do it and not them. Maybe that's why they're above the law, and where not?
Could be. Could be.
Because it's all about control. In some way down the line, you've got to squeeze the form of control into it all, aren't you? You've got to, aren't you?
Oh, well, yeah, you've always got to bring in the old civilization and all this crap and the rulers and all the rest of it, yeah, and controllers and to try and make some sense of it, I guess.
I like what Terence McKenna said, you know, the real truth that dare not speak its name is nobody's in control. You know, like, not the Illuminati, you know, and nobody really knows what's going on either. And this is like when we're talking about communication in general, and like this whole struggle that we're going into, and then somebody said something earlier, and I was thinking, it's just like growing up, you know, like we're growing up, we come to a certain point, we're being nurtured and cultivated by an entity, then we realize our own identity. Then with that identity, we form more of an identity with ourselves, and we start to make like conscious decisions on our own actions. And then we get maturity, well, not all of us, but some of us in a certain mental sense, and we become, you know, and it's like, this is the same thing happening on a grand scale with the universe. And
yeah.
Oh, it's really weird that we get lost. Like, you're talking about this control stuff and, like, you know, controlling what people think. Like, it's so weird to me, you know, and I do this in relationships. I tend to, you know, like this last girl I was with, she stopped being real intimate with me in text messages, and I kind of got turned off by it. And I mentioned it to her, and then I found myself texting her a lot and saying, you know, basically making these assumptions there's somebody else, saying these things, saying, well, you're this and you're that, you're doing that. And then I had a realization at one point. I was like, why do I need to inflict my will upon another person? If this is not something that is desired to be, then why try to force it against its own will? You know, because that's like, and so it's so weird when we need to conform to the ideas of others or have others conform to ours. And if not, we should feel belittled. And I think that's where that control stuff comes into. Because I'm not one to believe that we are restricted to the primal urges of competition and all that, you know? Like, do you guys believe that? Do you guys think that we're restricted to the primal urges for competition, that there's no, you know, that we don't have the ability to decide not to deal with such things? I mean, more specifically in terms of domination.
I think there was a time where we was all restricted, but that's going back many thousands of years ago. And then, you know, there came a time where a select few were given, you know, were de-restricted. And they were the ones that were meant to have passed it down the line. Unfortunately, you know, they just seized it and took opportunity and advantage of it. We can all.
I think it's like a basic level of programming. Like, we do need it, we do use it.
Right.
It's just that most people are not aware of, you know, that it's not the only one.
Right. Yeah, I see. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's important. You know, we learn things from. You know, basically, there is no separation from, you know, being influenced, you know, and so that's what I'm thinking about. Like, when we communicate with other people, it's like there are the large amount of population, in my opinion, does not listen to each other. They're speaking, but they're not listening to each other. Like, even in school, they teach you to debate, not to communicate. Right. You know,
exactly.
They want to, yeah, for sure. And I don't think, like, so it's really hard to be your authentic self and be sincere with other people if the underlying belief is that we're not really comfortable with each other, you know?
Yeah, I think we've been led to approach things from the wrong angle, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so. And even more so, I think some of that, the reality and variables that we could use to solve that, by identifying the root cause, is being usurped by, like, I don't know, let me, you know, go out on a whim here and say, like, kind of like fairy tale ideas, like Illuminati and Satanism and all this stuff. And I'm not to say that there isn't people out there trying to control the way things work, but when we're talking about the problems of society, people largely do not address at the local level. And when we're talking in terms of how we deal with each other in relationships and honesty and real, authentic narrative, you know, and it seems to be like when you go on Zello or these social applications, you really experience this.
I get what you're saying. It's almost like you shouldn't really put the blame on someone else unless you originally had, you know, the capabilities in the first place. And if that's the case, then you'd have no need to blame anybody.
Right, and that's where a solution starts to come. And Jiddu Krishnamurti talked about this, Jesus, Gandhi, you know, and like, because we're talking here originally physics and the connections and just how everything's space, and that is the one thing we seem to be sharing, besides the whole life force essence itself, our own existence. Like, what is the whole point for somebody else? Like, had this epiphany, you know, I've been going through depression, and I had this epiphany the other day. I was hanging out with some friends, and I was just not having a good time with them, and it wasn't them. But then after 1 second, I was like, wait a minute, I'm the only Michael Gonzalez in the entire world. I'm the only physical being of this nature, and I'm the only one who can experience this. So why should I experience it this way? And I make a decision to experience it differently because the leaves are falling from the trees right now. I am breathing, you know, this and that's happening, and it's quite interesting, you know. There's still like, but the paradox is we need each other. So like, we can't get so lost within ourselves. We have to, I don't know, it's really weird. But I definitely don't think solution is in the blame of, you know, entities we can barely even describe.
We were talking something about really basics the other night, Myke, and we were talking about self-responsibility, you know, responsibility for yourself. I mean, it seems everybody in the world, or people you speak to today, they don't really want to take, I mean, it's bringing this back down to sort of just ground basic level, you know. But no, they don't want to be responsible for themselves, you know. So, you know, they want everybody else to be responsible for them instead. Nobody wants that. They want all these things in life. They want the cars, they want the house, they want this, that and the other, they want the Learjet, they want to live, but they don't want to be responsible for themselves. They want somebody else to provide it for them, they want them to be looked after for them, everything sort of cut. And until you actually take full responsibility of yourself, then you're just going around and pity yourself, you're not going to sort things out, and basically, you know, a lot of people really, as far as I'm concerned, you know, they want things to be taken care of for them. You're always looking to somebody else to sort their problems out. You know, they've got everything that they keep and don't own, as we know. When people realise that you don't own anything in society, because that's how society works, you're just a keeper. And, you know, and they've got to, like insurances. I mean, what the hell is insurances? That's not being self-responsible in my book. You know, expecting somebody else to pay for your mistakes all the time. So first of all, I think, you know, this self-responsibility side of things, you know, people ought to get back to that really, because I think people are lost and they expect everybody else. It sounds a bit, you know, a bit stark of me to say that, but we had a discussion the other night, and every time we came back to this self-responsibility business, didn't we, PJ?
Yeah. Well, that's it though, Andy, you know. To have an ability to respond, you have to have people like that. I mean, they're not going to allow us to be responsible for ourselves, because then they've got nothing to fall back on.
Yeah, exactly.
They need everybody like this.
Yeah.
But as Myke saying, you know, trying not to go down that route is, you know, the blame game, so to speak, but that does seem...
You know, there's a lot of people left out in the cold. Like, for example, you know, we are born into a society that is heavily serviced. I mean, people go out to eat and you pay people. There's people that serve us. Their job is to serve us. And maybe some people are okay doing that, but I really don't think anybody's passion is to bring food to somebody on a plate. Maybe cooking food for other people, because that's kind of a very communal, therapeutic thing. But my point is there are a lot of people who are left out in the dark because they haven't been able to grasp on or to accept their own passions built into their body, because society doesn't have room for those certain kinds of things. And so there are types of people who are looking for, communal arrangements in order to contribute in their own way. And it's hard for certain, like a guy like me, I live, I have, and I'm willing to, be involved. And I'm currently looking in my country for a communal living arrangement because I just don't fathom, I've never had a license or a car. I don't fathom paying insurance, gas, saving up for a car, a home, a phone bill, and getting a little bit of smoke here and there and eating food. I just don't fathom it. I don't. And then when I get in relationships with people, it becomes a disadvantage of mine. I start negatively introspecting on myself. And it's this whole thing that I see. And but I believe that there are certain types of people who do not accept the norm, not because they're like, oh, I'm an antisocial person and I'm above this, but more because there's a concern for the direction that it's going. And I think any form of art or conversation like this is counterculture, and I think it's a form of personal responsibility because people want to get involved and communicate. And I think, for me as a human being, all my experience, intelligence, I can really comes from listening to other people and facing my mirror. That self-responsibility. And in terms of monetary aspects, I feel really left in the dark there, not being able to prove that I'm self-responsible. But in terms of, expression, hearing other people and cultivating, networks and comfortability for people to open up, it's just I feel really valuable there. And I really think there's a profound desire for people to be doing this. I think social networking is a representation of this. And people fear it, For me, people complain about Facebook and all these things because of the way people act, but it's a mirror. It's a mirror of society, and part of that self-responsibility, in my opinion, is facing that dirt, and being this is really what's happening out here. I mean, come on, guys, is everybody really being honest, And that's one thing. It's a cycle, I don't know. It's really hard because I don't believe in utopias, but maybe some people get left in the dust. I don't know. Something that's been wrecking my brain a lot lately. I mean, I know it's pretty loaded, but what? Something to think about. I watched these documentaries, there's this one in particular on Netflix called With One Voice. And at the end of the documentary, they asked, what's something human beings need to realize to have better lives?
I mean, I know what you're saying, Mark. I've tried to look at that myself. Hold on, let's cut this echo out. I mean, if you think about, I know we've had certain people who, when they've been brought to power, millions of people have lost their lives through it. But the fact is we're still here, 7 billion, standing today, and throughout what we've been through, it's still not managed to eradicate us as yet. And if anything, we've grown more. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think I've read. Actually, there's a guy, Steven Pinkerman, who says, over time we've become less violent, considering the amount of population we have, and the, in accordance to the medieval times and the Christian Crusades, more people were dying in more violent ways and more masses than they are now in comparative to the population. And so, there is hope for the progression, because I do, we've had nuclear weaponry for how long, and lots of ability to destroy ourselves, and it's almost like people are having their fingers over the button, no. But we tend to, I don't know, it's weird, I used to be very heavily in activism into saying, damn the man, but my experience in these large groups of people that were trying to work with each other and just social networking and my own relationships, there's a lot of work to be done internally, and I think we all know this, but I do see a progression. Right now, especially spiritually, empirically, politically, I do see a transcendence and some kind of trifecta of science, religion, and politics, transcending into this. I don't know. I know you guys feel it. It's kind of the basis of these conversations.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys right now, if somebody were to ask you, if you could say we're going to give you 5 minutes to express yourself to the entire population of humanity, what you think they need to realize to start working towards peace, I mean, what would you say?
I don't think peace is the path that we should really look down. I think we should look down other paths that lead up to peace. Because as much as people want peace, you're going to have the opposite people, thinking, they want war.
Right. And that's the weird thing, like that's...
Because you say, I want a peaceful world, and some people will just laugh at you.
Right. Oh, for sure, because, people think different things of what they think peace is. It's weird, The whole language barrier is a weird thing, and that's one of the big issues too. Like, if somebody asked me that question, I wouldn't be able to sum up what I would say, except for some of the things we talked here, personal responsibility. Like, I don't know. I just think we should all be cultivating our own food, and
I think that's where it should all come from. It's self-responsibility. That is what people need to get back to, first of all. And I think if you get back to the basics of that and what it really means, then you might be able to. I said something to PJ the other day, and he said, well, people will just laugh at you, Andy. They'll say, that's just ridiculous. But I'm a great believer in it's because I'm of the older generation, I guess. And you always look back on the good times. I mean, there's plenty of bad times, more bad times than good, even when I was sort of brought up in the 60s and 70s. But, there's certain things that have been destroyed and that are now missing, and they're very basic things. And sometimes people say, oh, you've got to go back to go forward. I don't see a problem with that. I don't have a problem at all with that. Now, it's not the normal. A lot of guys I speak with, like yourself, Myke and Doc and PJ, and other guys I speak to, they go, well, that's not the answer, that's a load of crap, and then that's fair enough. My opinion is sometimes, you may have to go back one step to take 2 steps forward. And I'm not saying in the ways of, because people will say we go back to destruction.
Why would you have to go back, Andy? If you never, forgot where you came from, why would you ever need to go back?
No, I don't have to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you don't have to go back. We just need to remember what it is. It's grassroots, as Myke would say.
If the psyche today, right? I'm not talking about people my age group, because I'm talking about younger people.
Oh, Andy, I struggle to find people my age group to talk to, this stuff about. I just can't do it. I've got to come on internet. I can't go around where I live and find people to talk. Just in anybody.
Yeah, it's really hard, to even on the internet.
I can't just go up to my mates and knock on his door and start talking to him about all that. I can talk to him about bits, but he's not.
Right.
Well,
it's hard.
Hold on. Sorry, Myke. All I was saying was, I speak to young people today, right, and there's no recognition of what the basics I'm talking about, none whatsoever. You won't even find it in a book. It's been erased. Unless your parents or your grandfather or whatever has installed that into you, it's gone. I'm not saying, 99% of it, I would say was, you don't really want to go back to that, because, there was some shite then.
Yeah, but you have to bear in mind, Andy, that we are now in the Aquarius, so things are different.
I know it's rubbing against what you guys all think, but the fact of the matter is, but we're only just in Aquarius.
It's not necessarily that we need to go back or that we need to go forward. It's that we need to be right here, right now. If we go back, we're going to, it's like, say you take a relationship. Once things in a relationship of any kind go wrong to a certain extent, it is
it is almost nearly impossible to make it what it was again.
Yeah.
So it needs to transcend. And in order for it to transcend, it has to face the moment in which it is. So the issues in which we have are also cultivated from the place which you call back there, because they deal with things that we were used to be restricted to that we no longer are. And so if we ignore today's problems, which are cultivated from the progression that came from back then. So in terms of, do we need to reconnect to Earth and reconnect to the cultivation of our own sustainabilities and network that with each other and not be so reliant on ghost corporations, ghost people that we don't know that are cultivating products we shouldn't really necessarily trust. Now, I agree with that, but I think what PJ is also saying is that, what's happening here and now, and we don't have to necessarily go back, but we can take, sentimentals with us from those times, proverbially speaking. That's what
I was saying earlier about memories. That's the thing we seem to leave behind, or ever really live for. What mean anything?
Perhaps I put it the wrong way, because I'm not very good at expressing what's inside my head. Sometimes the words don't come out right.
Me neither. Me neither. I'm not good at it.
Yeah. What I meant was I've learned. Okay. So you have to learn from them experience. You can't forget them, because that's what learning is. So when I say go back, it's what you've experienced.
Right.
Don't forget, because that's how you learn. If you forget, then you're going to make the same mistakes again. That's all I'm saying in that respect. Things. I'm not saying take everything back to the old days and try and correct it, but I'm saying if you attain those lessons, that's the only way you can evolve anyway, isn't it?
What, like a network of experience? Everything's built on
type
that.
of thing, yeah. And I feel that's not being. It's not total. It's only small, tiny things that are missing from what me and Myke were saying about the psyche of younger generation today. It's like whatever. I always keep on saying going back, but
you're right. There's a very high level of identification with external things in today's culture, and again, this is a culmination of this consumerist thought processes that's been pushed upon us by ourselves, essentially. And I think of this, with all the things that I do, I still mainly live in mainstream society. I mean, right now I have an old Navy sweater that I bought at a thrift store for $4, but it's been cultivated by a company that probably perpetuates behaviors that I don't agree with, that are against this kind of world that we're trying to talk about here. And it's so weird because you almost feel gridlocked, you know what I mean? And you'd have to either ostracize yourself or be strong enough to be able to cultivate your own, network. And I think the internet has really changed the game, though. As we can tell, I mean, we're all from various parts of the world, and we're communicating here on a subject that's near and dear to our hearts, and we're doing so very efficiently because I think there's a calling. I think it works organically. Just if we're connected to it. Then, somebody once said that the Earth, people always say, well, Mother Earth is pissed and she's going to destroy us. A mother never does that to her children. Yeah. She will die birthing us, and so our reconnection to it, and I think which is some of what Andy's talking about, is going to be really helpful. We're so lost in frames of thought. I'm probably totally different from you guys, but I get really lost in my head,
Yeah, exactly. I have no problem whatsoever dealing with authority. I'm not scared. It doesn't bother me. It's second nature. A man comes up with a baton and a uniform on, I can deal with that head on. It ain't a problem. It's like a second nature to me because of the morals and how I was brought up. But to people today, they don't know how to deal with this type of thing. And what I'm saying is that because of how I was brought up, you were taught how to deal with these things. But it seems a lot of people are struggling with that today.
Would you say, Andy?
Sorry?
Do you know the saying, it takes two to tango?
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
that's the thing, because nobody, the people who aren't admitting like the reality, like, you know, let me just bring a recent situation, you know, like there's a guy on Zello just saying he was somebody he's not, and then he did some negative things and claims to be about all these very positive things for humanity and these things, and is not willing to admit these negative things that he did. And that these are the kinds of things that people do but aren't willing to admit. It's not to say, hey, condemn these people, but we're saying that these are issues that are under the surface, kind of issues that happen, you know, locally, and prevent people from really understanding, or even if they do understand what we could do to make such a change, there's so much like...
Well, that's a lie, innit? So that stems from fear.
Right. And you know, it comes down the line too. How do you, it's like, it's really hard, because it makes, when we were earlier talking about the personal responsibility thing, you know, that's a lot of personal responsibility to make change.
Yeah. But the question is, how do we all tango together as one unit?
Yeah, for sure. I like the saying, we're only as strong as our signal. There's got to be a way to find that common ground.
Is it a conscious network, or is it an experience network, as Andy puts it?
I think it's both. It can be both.
I think it would be both too. I think how we define experience might be different, but I think really in terms of, I think sincerity is one of the key things of true sincerity. Others, like this to me.
So I was saying the other day. Sorry to cut you off. I was saying the other day. I think we need to get back to. Sorry again. I don't even want to use the word "get back" here now. I think what we need to do. Yeah. What we need to do, as a whole, is to respect our planet first.
We can't respect his own temple, his own body's back. How are we going to do that?
You know, if we can just start to get everybody to respect the planet first, and then, you know what, humanity and everything else will fall into place. That's just my personal theory.
I agree with it, but I think it's a pipe dream.
Why is it a pipe dream?
Because it's like, you know, you jumping gun, you shortcutting. You've got to put
because that gets you in tune with the natural flow, and, you know, the universal cosmic energy flow, that whole thing. You know, I think
these people are interested in that.
That's the textbook for us, for everybody. Sorry.
How do we get these people that have got no interest in any of this? How do we get them on board?
Well, that's the big question. You know, Jadoo Krishnamurti talked about that. He was asked, you know, is this kind of change possible? And he said, only if it was instant and qualitative. Otherwise, those who were making it would constantly be waiting for it, because it's not something that could instantly happen. And so how do we work towards it? Well, I think part of it starts with conversations like this, and making conversations like this more popular in terms of comfortability. Why do people tend to shun away from philosophical, religious, or political conversations? Because there seems to be a high level of passion and intensity, because it's something that affects all of our lives. But therefore, we should be able to find an ability to communicate very well about this because of how important it is. I think. Go ahead.
We need to figure a way of splitting the atom. Because essentially, you know, all life comes splitting of the atom. So in this sort of way, we need to figure a way to do that. If you know what I mean.
Can you clarify that? Like, explain it more?
You know, like when an atom's split, and, you know, when cells multiply.
Okay.
Well.
Okay. Yeah.
In that sort of way, this is how we've got to go down that sort of path to make this happen.
I agree, man. On this next year here, I met a woman from British Columbia on this group called Earth Conscious Connections, and she's going to be traveling, and she knows all these really positive spiritual and political activist type people, and just people in the network of humanity, and just getting back to this. There it goes again, getting back. And
I started something now. You see, I planted the seed.
That's right, Andy. All right. But no, we're going to be going on a journey and connecting the network of people, like, and in the state of, or in the country of United States, and just connecting these networks. And just, I'm going to take the opportunity to be a student of the journey and also be a teacher of the network, and meaning just accentuating how important it is for us to do this. And as you're saying, so technically, when these two variables coming together and we're all doing this in our own different ways, it can only multiply, as you're, if I'm understanding what you're trying to interpret. But still, like, this has been happening for, a long time. I don't know. I think it's all organic. Are we even really in control? Like, really, like, we're reacting to everything that's happening to us right now. We don't just come into the world like this. We're doing this. Like, it's a succession of variables based off of the ones before them, and it's all serial and relative. And it's like, you can't slap the sun out of the sky and not have it affect what happens to the earth and so on. You know what I mean? It's like, so how can we even think that?
One thing that's guaranteed is that if we fail doing what we're doing now, we've got another, 2,600 years and mayhem to look forward to until next time we can, get this opportunity.
Right. They say this has happened many times before. I mean, even the Genesis tells you that.
Well, we can all reunite in 2,500 years and get another shot at.
You know what? I think back to what I think it was maybe what you were saying, or Andy was saying, or maybe even Bach. I can't remember. But perhaps some people make it. Just those who become to that level, that true level. I mean, not a level that you could even express with your own mouth, saying, "Oh, I'm enlightened," because at that level, it wouldn't even be something you would have to express, because you would be it. And I think when that comes, you don't just ascend into the atmosphere or something, but I believe that perhaps those who already will go to the next stage, and because we can't all make it at the same time and live forever, and it can't be a perfect world. And so just, it's weird. I think we're created. Do you guys think we're created or not?
Trying to be.
I'm trying to hold on to the creation theory. We aren't getting too mixed up with it all. But I'd like to still hold on to it if that's possible.
Okay, yeah, I apologize. It's just relative, because I think, like, just going back without mentioning that, I just was trying to express.
Oh, right. No, I thought you were asking that's my opinion. As a group, what we're dealing with, we're open to anything. Do you know what I mean? But me personally, I'd still like to think we were created, probably not from like a god sort of thing, but I mean, I can't. If I were to take creation away, I'd have to find a way of figuring out how all these things are designed. And if there's no designer, then it's over my head. Right. I agree with that, and it's such a paradox, to think. My. It gives me the goosebumps, guys, when you start going that road, whether you think there is one or there isn't. It's so profound. Like, I try to tell people all the time, like, oh, well, there's this and that. We ate from the tree. I'm like, listen to what you're saying, okay? We ate a fruit from a tree, and we were like gods because of that. Do you think it was just magical knowledge in a fruit? What is this parable trying to say? So if you believe in religion, then, okay, you believe in Christianity, then what you're actually saying is somehow we took knowledge in by eating some kind of proverbial fruit that we weren't supposed to, as if we were somewhere scouring around the library of God and found some information. It's like, check this out, guys, we're naked. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't just eat a fruit. And so this story, like, represents to me this whole other existence of beings coming into play with other beings. And I don't know, look at pets. I got a dog, Chico, here. You probably heard him earlier. He comes up, I come in the house, he jumps up at me, and then he lays on my lap. He does make me feel good. And I don't know, what does he think about me? Does he think I'm like his leader or God or father? Or... Yeah. So it's weird. I don't know. What does an ant think about what I look like, if it does? As David Icke says, is the perception deception the cause for the psyche of today? What would you say, Andy?
Oh, I'd just like to say, when you said, you'd struggle beyond thinking that there wasn't a creator, did I get that right?
Well, I'd struggle to explain or or even be able to, find a thought beyond that.
Well, I just keep it simple. You come from something, don't you?
Yeah.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny about that, PJ? Because even if you were to say that there was a creator, or even if you were to say that there wasn't, you would still have a question before each one of those, wouldn't you?
It depends how you're looking at the word creator. It doesn't have to be a being. It doesn't have to be anybody. It could be anything.
If you said the Big Bang, like we're all from the center of a star, there's always a first premise. Like we can go far back, like say, okay, I'm going all the way back until I was a tiny little sperm, and when before I was a tiny little sperm, what was I?
Yeah, well, that's the roller coaster to it all, isn't it?
Right, and that's what's real confusing. I think either way, whether you're a creationist or a scientist, the question is so we're all coming from if we're all coming from a singular point, what else is there? And either way, there isn't anything else, and that's what boggles my mind about why we're so divided.
Like I say, I just say, well, you come from something, and that's it. Leave it at that. Leave it at that.
If people had honey our words, and that'd be beautiful to see, but I can't see based on the amount of feedback you get on your Facebook. I can't see that happening.
Well, there you go. I mean, I do put on my Facebook, I'm a conspiracy theorist, don't believe a word I say, so, I mean, I leave that conundrum up to people if they want to ask me something, I don't believe a word I say, I mean, I'm just, and that's it, I come from something, I don't know, perhaps it's something that everybody
you need to encourage them, and
what's it about? Where do we come from? Who do we come from? How do we come from? We just come from something.
Right, and we're just going somewhere. No, we do.
But it's so much of a coincidence, though, with how everything's laid out and how everything's materialised. I mean, I'm not talking in a system sort of thing. Just it is what we've got. You know what I mean? Our things are designed to perfection almost. Even though it's not, it's not quite perfect as we view that. It is. It's exactly as it's meant to be.
Well, I was taking the point what Donahue says about the photon. I mean, we can only call a photon that we can put it somewhere in the spectrum of light and call it a photon. What is it called before it becomes a spectrum of light? What does it become after it's a spectrum of light? Because there is no end to either side.
Not at all, because we're only viewing it with, if there's no mechanics to see it, what is it?
That's right. It's only because of the fact of the matter we've got the mechanics to see a photon, and we called it a photon. What is it? What are we going to call it when it goes past that, beyond that, a higher frequency, or below that, a lower frequency? Is there an end to either end? I personally, I'm along with Nassim Haramein and the rest of the guys. It's continuous.
Yeah, sure. The reason the creation thing, is because when we incorporate, extraterrestrials, whatever we want to call them, beings, as Andy said earlier, when we incorporate that reality into our philosophical thought processes, what we're actually saying is that there are beings outside of our planet that can make it here and interact with us. If we understand genetic manipulation to be possible to a certain extent already by our knowledge, then there has to be something said about where we're going exactly and what we're doing. But then at the same,
I think with what we've got, yeah, sorry, Mike. I was just going to say, with what we've got, I don't think it's necessary for us even needing a being. I don't even think it has to be a being to bring about anything.
It's a bad choice of words on my part with the being. I mean, whatever. I mean, it's words, isn't it? Listen, there's a game of words, don't forget.
Can there be life where there's no life at all?
What's life?
No,
what is life?
Nothing.
What is life? You know, we could carry on. We could go to the point where I could say, I'll make up a word, and you'll go, what the hell is he on about? Well, I just made the word up. I'll give you the meaning to it now, and you'll go, oh, is that what it means? I've never heard it before. Well, no, I've just made it up.
Oh, no, well, the word is not the thing, but we can definitely define things with words and express to them. And otherwise, we wouldn't even talk right now. We would just telepathically realize that we're all from the center of a star and be in harmony.
Oh, that would be nice.
But we're confused. We're very confused by language. You know, we are very confused by what we're saying and what the words mean. And for sure, life, for me, I had this really deep argument with an atheist about life, and I was like, you don't think the sun's alive? He's like, no, the sun is not alive. And I'm like, well, then what is it then? He's like, it's a form of energy. I was like, well, what is it doing? Is it animated? He's like, I don't know. I think it's animated. It's moving. It's not. He's like, it's living. He's like, I wouldn't consider it to be living. I was like, well, what is it doing when it's getting off energy then? He's like, I don't know. I was like, well, let's see how science defines living. And science defines living as anything that is alive needs a certain amount of nutrients and metabolism or something like this, and can also reproduce and something else. But you can look it up right now on Wikipedia, and it would tell you specifically. But then that also raises certain questions, like, does a star technically reproduce since it's heating the earth up, and then the plants produce, and et cetera, et cetera? And it's a huge question. The reason for me, like, with the creator thing is, like, it is a language, but those are just all words. But you know what? We know the word is not the thing. So, well, what is the thing then? Because they're all talking about things coming from the sky and interacting with us in sexual ways and weird things like that. And we are very, look at, right now you're talking into a computer screen and a microphone that's connected to some weird network that's floating around in the air. And I don't see any bees, ants, or other apes doing that. And it really kind of makes me think that we're, for some reason, beyond, I don't know, like that thing that I played earlier, we're like gods, you know?
But I could possibly make the universe.
I don't know, that's the whole, because I don't know, we took the red pill, I don't know, you know?
I like that film Lucy. I don't know if any of you have seen it.
Seen what?
Lucy.
I don't think so.
Oh, I haven't yet. I'll have to find it on the line somewhere and look at it.
Yeah. Well, I don't really want to spoil the story for you then. So I'll cut that one out.
I know the film now.
Mr. Nobody?
Well, like, for me to say what I wanted to say, I'd have to spoil the film.
Oh, go on, it doesn't matter. I'll watch it anyway if I do.
Well, Endrich, this woman, this main character, what it's all about, it's about her, and Endrich, she turns into a machine, into a system, into like a network thing.
We lost part of that, PJ, you have to repeat it.
It's about that woman called Lucy, and she's trying to battle the system, and at Endrich, she turns into a system, into a machine, like a computer sort of thing, a network. And that way she can't be destroyed. Because it's a bit far-fetched as I'm putting it across to you, but when you watch the film, you'll get the gist of what I'm talking about, and for those that have seen it, will know what I'm speaking of. You know what I mean? But at the end of it, she comes into a system. She just like transforms into this, morphs into this like network, you know, like a massive server sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay, well I'm gonna watch it now.
Yeah, we'll definitely watch it. No, Andy, definitely watch it. We'll talk about. But anyway, in fact, that's probably inspired. That should have been enough to inspire you to watch it, just so you know what it is I'm talking about. Otherwise, you'll think I'm just talking daft. But anyway,
how can you speak to a guy like me when I say we come from something, you know? I'm only having a joke.
But anyway, that represents the consciousness and how we can work as a as a system that way, and that's what it represents in the film, in my opinion.
Yeah.
For a good film, and it's all to do with this drug that she takes, and it makes her reach 100% of her brain. You know, she can achieve to use it all, and once she's got 100%, she transforms into this system. But anyway, that's what the film's about.
Okay.
Amongst other things.
Well, you're giving me a little bit about it now. I have seen a few trailers on it and that sort of thing a while ago. I'll take it up. I shall see it anyway. The missus likes to watch them. I showed the missus what way to put it, my partner, my nearest and dearest, and they live.
Yeah, the classic.
We got one that can see.
What does he call it now?
What, my missus?
No, on They Live. What does he call? He calls that woman a cheese grated face or something. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Something like that, innit?
He says, "Oh, yeah, you sort of bitches die too, you know." I shouldn't, but it's quite yes. But she enjoyed it. It's good. 80s sci-fi in its day. Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah. They had the drones back then as well, didn't they, in that film?
They had what? Sorry, could you?
The drones that were hovering above him.
Yeah. But you know, so where did we get? I can't remember. Box gone to slip. No, Box. Are you still there, Box? We lost him.
No, I'm here. I'm listening.
So anything to add to what we've said so far? I kind of agree with you. I think we ought to, start respecting the, what we're living on, terra firma. I really do think that.
Well, I think for those that care, they've already come to that.
Yeah.
They've already established that. It's just trying to figure a way to make it, put it into practice.
And also to realize why we're communicating in the first place. Even those who disagree with each other, why are we really communicating? What is the whole, what is there a time when we're not communicating in some way, form, or level?
Well, the other interesting thing about it, Myke, I'm 54. I don't know how old you are, Myke. I roughly know. I know roughly what PJ is, and I think you're older than PJ Buck, aren't you?
What's that?
I said, you're older than PJ, aren't you? Or don't you know? I mean, it's not got nothing.
Yeah, Buck's older than me. Yeah.
So we're kind of. I'm sort of the oldest, I guess. I'm older than you, Myke, aren't I?
Yeah, I'm 12.
Yeah, that's great. I wished I was 7.
I'm 27.
Actually, I wished I was 6. I wished I was 6 again, and I could stay in 6, But yeah, maybe a bit, even a bit earlier than that. But but it's good that there's a mixture of the ages here. But why are we all communicating like the same, Myke?
Well, can I try to take a stab at that real quick?
Yeah, go on.
All right.
So, I think that there's few things more primal than the urge to communicate, the pull towards intimacy, towards merger with the other, a way of almost smashing our isolating and debilitating sense of individuation. We feel so separate from everything and everyone, so alienated from ourselves and from other people. And this urge to communicate, or as Terence McKenna says, this urge to language is an ecstatic activity of signification. It is a way of saying we are here and we exist. It is a way of affirming our own existence. And so through these developing communication technologies, it started with crude grunts as early hominids that evolved into language and ecstatic cave paintings that eventually evolved into the alphabet and writing. It was this urge to telepathy, to experience a technologically mediated telepathy, to share mind spaces with one another. And this is known by David Porish as intersubjectivity and the ecstasy of communication. Intersubjectivity, like two strands of DNA, human beings get coiled up in one another when they have sex, when they proclaim their love with language, when they take pictures and make ecstatic paintings and compose songs to put each other in one another's world. You know, perhaps the cinema is the best technology thus far to allow us to share dream spaces together. But this urge to merge ultimately is about a desire for intimacy. It's a cry. It's a manic existential agitation. Desire to become one. That is its origin. That is where it comes from. We are travelers, hermonauts, in search of signification. That is our condition.
They really are shots of awe.
Yeah, very good. I was thinking when I was listening to that, you know, like, it's Bill Donahue, one of his videos is, you know, well, the first one that Box showed me was proving the message. And I think the reason for all this communication and why we've got to the day we're living in is to share the message. We've always had the message, but we've never learned, you know, we've never had a way or some sort of mechanism to be able to share it. And obviously the message is, you know, sorting all this shit out for everybody.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it's stronger than ever now, and we're realizing more so. Even just his expression in that video is not something unique to him. It's through art. You know, it's like people beginning to like. This is why art and music are so important in society. Why was it such an early thing that we did, and has progressed to what it is? But really it seems to be kind of ethereal, doesn't it? You know, just like the beauty of a flower seems to be quite ethereal, but these things are so meaningful to us as human beings. And I think that's part of what perhaps you know, Andy was saying about going back, you know, and Bach also said that too about reconnection to the earth. And I think there's a lot of messages and signals coming out there in terms of that. There's a book called A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, and where he talks about the first flower to appear on Earth must have been a rare and significant event. And he uses the flower and a human's use for it to express beauty, and how it must have been a catalyst in early human times for our recognition of beauty, and how such a fleeting and ethereal thing like a flower could be used consistently through human time to express love. And what does that mean? And like, and how he talked about how Jesus and Buddha used flowers in sermons and all these crazy things. And like, the book is really about taking personal responsibility and letting go of any mind identifications and living in the current moment that we're in. And there's a lot of things coming out like this. And I think with our ability to communicate and put our personal experiences into our communication and be more sincere through communication like this, where we don't have to deal with all the intensity of neuro signals and sensations of our, you know, sensory perceptions when we're communicating with somebody in person whom we might be nervous with or whatever. So I think it's very helpful to have stuff like this.
Oh yeah, it's essential.
Yeah. Excuse me. Gonna blow my nose and move my microphone.
Well, all right, my brothers. It's 7:17 p.m. over here in Michigan, and I'm gonna go grab a bite to eat and see if I can move about a little bit now. It's been a wonderful, wonderful time conversating with you guys, and I thank you for inviting me to this.
Yeah, no worries, Myke. It's nice to have you with us. Thanks for joining us.
Nice to chat again, Myke. And we won't leave it so long, yeah? Take it easy.
Yeah, have a good night, Myke.
For sure, you guys too, and invite me again whenever you guys get down.
Yeah, sure,
Yeah,
will
cool,
do.
man.
Cheers, Myke.
Yeah, very, very good to have Mike's thoughts. It's the first time I've had a proper talk with him.
Did you never log into Grassroots much?
Yeah, I've been on Grassroots for a bit now, but not as much as I I don't, I went through a period where I was just solely focused on certain things, and I had a big guard up where I didn't want no sidetracks, you know what I mean? So it also prevented me from checking other things out, but now I've brought that guard down now where I'm going, so I've managed to go into grassroots and talk to people on there.
Yeah, it's good. I like Dragon 2. It's very wise.
Yeah, he's a good guy too.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Now, something what Myke was saying, that last, I don't know who it was, the last recording he put on about the oneness. Yeah. Now, what was it? Who was the guy who was saying about the 15% block? You can't wake everybody up. 15%. Who was that guy?
Peterson.
Yeah. Well, Myke comes from that everybody is going to be awake type angle. I get that feeling from Myke, and it's although he says, I think he said he either doesn't believe in a utopia, or he does, or he'd be sad if there wasn't a utopia. I don't know where the angle he was coming from. But I kind of go along the line of the Peterson guy. I think I don't think you can wake everyone.
Well, don't forget, there's reincarnation and all that, so it all has its purpose, and that person, might need to go through, several journeys type thing.
So what final thoughts have we got? We've got a 2-hour recording tonight.
I can't think of the final thought. I did have something. It's gone now.
But when you're talking about, the one and everybody, it depends who you're talking about with everybody, who you're referring to. I mean, as Bob's saying, those that probably won't get it might not be included in the everybody.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I said the 15%. That's. I mean, let's be honest here, PJ. If you look around the fanny book and read all these comments on all these different rooms and things going on, if you was to take all the comments on some of the subjects or whatever it might be, I don't know, beat the bankers or civil lawful dissent or whatever. I can't help but get that feeling that, it is an unreachable target to wake everybody up.
All at once in one lifetime, it's impossible.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm referring to my physical, one lifetime, like you say. So, and that's not to be a defeatist or looking at it in a negative way, because I think if 1% wakes up, that's good. I don't know. I guess, I don't know. I don't know if that's any good for a final thought. Perhaps you can think of a better one. I think you can, PJ.
I can think of many final thoughts.
The finite thought.
The final thought shall be no thought at all.
Alright, that's fair enough. I'll go with that one. You can turn it off now.
Oh, it's true though, isn't it? That seems to always be the final thought.
You should call it the granite thought.
I'm just a crazy man, PJ. You'll have to put me down as a loony, in fact. What is a loony? Me, I guess. I don't know.
Do your own show like Jesse Ventura. Conspiracy Theory with Andy Freeman.
The lunatic philosophers / consultants.
Why is it like that, Andy? Well, because it is. Okay, moving on. The next subject.
But isn't that your other half's way of looking at things? Is that rubbing onto you, Andy?
I think so, just lately. I think so, just lately. I get tired, PJ, like everybody. I think we all get a bit tired, and just lately, I've been having quite a good. Oh, I always have a good time. Every day's a good time. That's how I look at it. And but lately, I've been in hysterics reading some comments where before another time I would be like, no, you can't say that. It's not. I'm not. And I get into a debate about it. Now I just have a chuckle, and I might put something a bit not condescending, but a bit of a gag. It's like the food thing I put up and all the rest of it, because sometimes humour is better than the alternative, really, PJ.
No way.
Well, you watch George Carlin. It's great, isn't it? You can't help but laugh for crying out loud. It's.
Well, did you check that with Jim Carrey's one I put on Facebook earlier? What do you think to that?
I didn't see it.
No, have a check on that and let me know.
And Bill Hicks, they were great. They were brilliant. They were brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So I'm kind of looking at things a little bit like that. Sometimes I think you've got to be light-hearted because it needs to be. You need to be sometimes. But you try and get over to these people on why are you causing yourself so much suffering and pain because you want to be something you're never going to be in this physical realm. You want to be an owner. You're not going to be an owner. You'll always be a keeper. Now, let's try and sort the problem out here. But unless you wake up to the fact that you'll never be an owner, you won't be able to sort out anything, will you?
That's it. Up until then, you've got to run the shop and serve the customers.
Yeah. I'm fine. I would rather be a keeper any day. No doubt. I'm happy as Sam not being a keeper. I don't want to be an owner. If you could be such a thing, and you can't.
Yeah. It comes with a back in 20 minutes sign.
Well, you try and explain to people that fairness is not is not a word that's considered in society, and because it's not built around fairness. It never has been. It's not about fairness, and all the legal system and all the rest of it. It's nothing to do with fairness. Not for the 99.9% or whatever it is. I don't even know what it is anymore. Who thought of the 99%? Who was it?
It doesn't even make sense anyway, does it, when you work it out, when you do your maths?
No.
It's more 99.98 or something, recurring.
Yeah, actually, a bit like how you're made up, atomically.
Right, well, until next time, we'll leave it there.
That was the final thought.
Final thought.
And what's the most you've had them since you started these? Was it Albert's talk?
Albert's, that one with Kevin, and we've done a couple on ourselves, haven't we?
Yeah.
This one. He's finding people, he's trying to get people out of...
Just ordinary people.
Yeah, ordinary people.
Just
Anybody else.
they don't have to have a star.
No. You don't need a status.
No, that's something you don't want ever. Mr. Andy.
We're looking for keepers. We need as many keepers.
Yes.
To come and join us and have a chinwag.
No, otherwise I'd have to address myself if I want to become an owner as Mr. Andy with a status.
Yeah.
Master. No.
Master of who?
Master of myself. And I'm very selfish and it's all mine. own it all. I own the universe. I am the creator.
We can all be Zeus.
Sorry.
We can all be Zeus.